Alright guys, in today's video we are going to be discussing the PlayStation 5 outselling the Xbox Series X at launch and how apparently both consoles are going to launch with similar price points. At least that is what one analyst is predicting. And it's also worth noting that this analyst has been correct about most of their predictions in the past. So we are going to discuss this. I think it's going to make for an interesting discussion. We're only a few days into 2020 and the conversation surrounding these next generation consoles is already starting to ramp up and heat up, which I have no problem with. But before going any further, I'm going to ask that if you are excited for the next generation of consoles, if you think you're going to enjoy this video commentary, or if you do believe that the PlayStation 5 is in fact going to outsell the Xbox Series X at launch, be sure to hit the like button. It really helps the videos out way more than you guys know. I would not be asking if it didn't help out significantly, so I'm just going to be saying that in the beginning of each video to remind you. But getting into it here, says it's the very beginning of the year, the perfect time to speculate what the next set of 12 months hold for the video games industry. Speaking of which, gamesindustry.biz has gotten in on the action by asking various analytical experts what they expect to happen across 2020 and the effect next generation consoles will have. It makes for some positive reading where the PlayStation 5 is concerned, with one analyst predicting that Sony's next console will outsell Microsoft's Xbox Series X at launch. Pierce Harding-Rolls of IHS Market Technology said, "I expect PS5 to outsell Xbox Series X in 2020, but for both platforms to sell more consoles at launch than both the PS4 and Xbox One did back in 2013. Harding-Rolls then goes on to state that he expects both systems to hit the market at a similar price point, which is most likely going to surpass the $399 mark. Microsoft is rumored to be planning a cheaper version of its next-generation system, something more in line with the specs of an Xbox One X. But the analyst doesn't believe that Sony will follow suit. I don't expect Sony to follow this product strategy at launch, so this approach would give Xbox more go-to market flexibility, although it would also add complexity around marketing and consumer education. He's a man worth paying attention to as well. Pierce Harding-Rolls made a set of predictions for 2019 with gamesindustry.biz at this point last year, getting just one of 11 expectations wrong. Of course, these are just thoughts of a single person, but it is becoming clearer and clearer that Sony is setting up the PS5 for a huge amount of success. So this is actually some pretty interesting information to go over, and I do think it is really worth highlighting that this person knows what they're talking about. They're very good at what they do, clearly, because last year they only got 1 out of the 11 predictions they made wrong. So I actually want to give my thoughts on this, and I want to start by saying I actually 100% agree with everything this individual is predicting, and I actually would make the same predictions or very similar predictions myself. Now, the one area where I'm still a bit unsure of has to do with the pricing of the console. This is something we've been talking about a lot because we know that it's going to be a pretty good reflection of what these consoles are going to be capable of. A lot of people have been expecting the PlayStation 5 to end up being a $500 console. We've been seeing a lot of talk recently coming from Xbox fans talking about the 12 teraflop number and the recent spec leaks and really diving in deep as to what we can expect with the Xbox Series X. And there's no doubt it's going to be a very powerful console. But now we're starting to see some people kind of speculate that it's going to be anywhere between 30 and 45% more powerful, which sounds somewhat unrealistic to me. That sounds like a pretty steep difference there, and it kind of goes against everything we've been hearing Sony say about the PlayStation 5 up until this point. It also goes against a lot of insiders and what they've had to say about the PlayStation 5, or supposed insiders, I should say. And so it's just been creating a lot of different conversations, and I've entertained the idea and rationalized the idea of Sony launching a $399 PlayStation 5 and why they would choose to do that, what it would ultimately mean, how nobody should panic over that idea because we would still get a very powerful console. But again, I've been seeing certain individuals really going in hard with this notion that there's going to be like a 45% power difference between these consoles, which maybe that could end up being true. The truth of the matter is none of us are going to know until Sony and Microsoft officially reveal specs. And I don't mean to start going on a tangent here about power and specifications, but the fact that this individual believes that both of these consoles are going to launch at a similar price point of more than likely $500, definitely not $400, it leads me to believe that maybe he could be correct. I think that there are some individuals, or I don't want to say I want to say I know that there are some individuals across the internet who I guess we could say are, I don't want to say insiders, but they come off as if they know some things that we don't, and they just are not willing to share them, or if they are willing to share them, they're doing so very subtly, basically letting us know that this 9.2 teraflop number and leak that we've been seeing people run with is not correct, it's not real, but we've been seeing just as many people claiming it is. But if I had to give my thoughts on it, I do believe the PlayStation 5 is going to be a $500 console, and I do believe it's going to be much closer to the Series X than we've been thinking. I went on record many times last year on my channel saying that I believe there to be no bigger than a 10 to 15% power difference between these consoles, and it's going to be very difficult to actually see any difference between the consoles. We are having much different conversations now, especially when you look at Xbox fans and what they're saying. But the reason why I believe the PlayStation 5 ultimately, even if they do end up being the same price, will outsell the Xbox Series X at launch, there's a few reasons. One of the biggest and most important reasons has to do with the numbers we see right now. The PlayStation 4 currently has over 102 million units out there that people have in their homes. And you have to think that that's a lot of people buying a lot of games, making a lot of investments in digital content. And that's a big theme with this generation, is there are people spending hundreds of thousands, I don't say hundreds of thousands, but hundreds or thousands of dollars on digital content, on digital games that we know will be forwards compatible. It will go with you. And because of that, most people are not going to want to forego that. Even though they are technically older games and last generation games, I just don't see them saying we're not going to bring this forward. Now, we know there's cross-play and cross-saves and stuff like that, but that type of stuff has not been fully implemented into all games. So the point I'm trying to get at here is that a lot of current PlayStation 4 owners, if they are even thinking about upgrading to a next generation console, it doesn't really matter how powerful the Xbox Series X is. It doesn't really even matter how many games they have. I hate to say that, because the truth is a lot of people are just going to determine their purchase on, listen, I spent like $3,000 in the past 4 years on this console with games and content. I want to know if it's going to go forward with me with the next console I buy. And the only way they're going to be able to do that if they're a PS4 owner is by buying a PS5. So yeah, another big reason why I think this is going to be true is because you have to think of, the branding here. PlayStation as a brand is one of the most well-known gaming brands in the world, and there's no doubt it has much more of a global presence than Xbox does. I'm not saying that to hate or anything. That is just the reality of the situation. Xbox, really, their main territory is North America. There's other areas as well, but Sony just has a much bigger global presence, especially in Europe, and so it's going to be an uphill battle. In fact, it's always an uphill battle for Microsoft to be able to appeal the same way PlayStation is appealing to people in these territories. So when you couple these things together, I think the writing on the wall pretty much says that, yeah, no matter what, even though both of these consoles will undoubtedly get off to a much better start than the Xbox One and the PS4 did back in 2013, one is going to have to outpace the other, and I think that the PlayStation 5 is primed to do that, especially if they have a $399 price point. But even at a $499 price point, I still think they have a chance of doing that. And this individual also went on record saying that he doesn't believe Sony is going to do the same thing that Microsoft plans to do by launching a lower-end, cheaper, affordable model, because they don't want to risk kind of mixing up their marketing, because marketing is everything when it comes to this stuff. And regardless of what your thoughts are on the Xbox Lockhart console, there's no doubt that that could potentially be a marketing nightmare for Microsoft, and that thing will essentially live or die based off of how well or not well they market it. And that's just the truth of the matter. In fact, that could be said about anything, but there's no doubt it is adding a layer of complexity to that marketing. Now, one final thing I do want to say here is that I've seen some individuals expressing that people do not go out there and buy consoles, or at least the vast majority of gamers do not go out there and buy consoles for exclusive games, and therefore exclusive games do not matter nearly as much. I firmly believe that to be wrong. Statistically speaking, I understand why some people come to this conclusion. They look at a game like, I don't know, let's just say God of War, and we know that that game sold like 10 million copies. I'm sure it's well over that now, but like, let's even say 15 million copies or something like that. And, well, maybe that's a little bit too much, but the point is it sells millions and millions of copies. Let's just say 10 million. Okay, since it sells 10 million copies when there's about 100 million PS4s out in the wild, people will tell you that's a 1 in 10 ratio. That's terrible. That tells you that 90% of people are not buying these exclusive games. So what that tells them is that 90% of people are not buying a console to buy exclusive games. Now, the way my line of thinking works is this, and I want to end the video here because I do think this is where, again, I always say that as long as Sony has true exclusive games on their console, they're going to have a distinct advantage when it comes to sales and being able to incentivize people to go out and buy those consoles, because we have to take into account what I call the trickle effect. This is something you won't see Xbox fans, at least hardcore Xbox fanboys, talking about because they don't want to believe it's true, but I think it is. The trickle effect, in my opinion, this is how it works. When a new console comes out, let's say the PS5 and the Xbox Series X launching this holiday, who are the people, what type of people are going to be there within the first month, within the first 3 months, even within the first 6 months, buying these consoles day one, spending the most amount of money for them? The hardcore gamers. What do the hardcore gamers care about? The hardcore gamers care about the games. And this is where you will see they will certainly care about the exclusive games. If they see a game that's announced for the PlayStation 5 that they know they can only get on the PlayStation 5 and not on their PC, if they have a gaming PC, they can't stream it through xCloud or PlayStation Now on their phone or tablet if they wanted to. The only way you can play this game is you must have a PlayStation 5 in your possession. They will go out and they will buy the next-gen console for that. Now, I'm not saying every single person who buys a PS5 or Xbox Series X within the first 6 months of it being out on the market is only doing so based off of first-party games. However, I would argue that the majority of people, that is the ultimate determining factor. Yes, price is important, but again, the people who are out here looking to upgrade day one or with, day 30 or within 6 months, they're not really focused on price. They know it's going to be expensive. They're expecting it to be expensive. They want to know what they're going to be getting. Not only power-wise, not only specs-wise, but most importantly, games-wise. And this is where the trickle effect comes in, where you get 5 different people, 5 different hardcore gamers who are interested in 1 or 2 exclusive games that Sony announced that they know they're only going to get on the PS5. So they make the investment and they say, I want to play this game day one on the PS5, or I want to play this game a year from now when it comes on the PS5. So I'm going to invest in the PS5 for $400 or $500 right now. Then their whole circle of friends who may be interested in gaming, but maybe these are the individuals, the other 10 friends they have that are not interested in exclusive games. They're going to look at this individual and say, oh, okay, so, Tommy here, he bought a PlayStation 5 over the Xbox Series X. Let's ask him why. And he says, oh, because I'm looking forward to these exclusive games. And they say, okay, well, I want to play with you. There's other games like Call of Duty and FIFA and whatnot I'm interested in, and I want to play with my friends. So you're going to go where your friends are. The same can be said for family members, and that is the trickle effect. That's why the PlayStation 4 has caught on the way it did. That's why the Xbox 360, to a certain extent, got off to the start it did back in the day, and that's just my line of thinking on it. So that's why I do not agree with people who sit here and try to make it sound like exclusive games don't matter. No, a lot of people who are out here buying these consoles within the first year, they feel as though they're making an investment, and the thing they're making an investment in is games, right? Yes, exclusive games, whether people want to believe that or not. Just because I'll tell you, those 10 million people who buy God of War, those are the 10 million people who have millions and millions of friends who they're convincing to say, hey, go, this guy bought this console, he's playing God of War, I'm not interested in God of War, but I am interested in playing with them with these other, the other third-party games, so I'm going to go where my friend's at. That's how it works, people. So at least that's how I see it. But that does it for the video, guys. Turned out longer than I wanted it to. I'm going to end it here. Let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. Do you agree with this analyst? Do you agree with what I had to say? If not, let me know why or why not down in the comments below. Leave the video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and haven't already. Hit the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload. And feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.